So why is everyone and their mother switching to Hall of Fame keyboards? Like this graph shows which keyboard brands pro players are using, and that's how many are using keyboards made by Wooting. You know, the brand that basically pioneered and only make Hall of Fame keyboards. And the number of pros that are using Wooting keyboards more than doubled over the last year. And Wooting are by far not the only brand that make HE keyboards, so we can only guess how many pros are actually using HE keyboards now. It's probably a lot. So why is that? I mean, pros don't always make the best decisions when it comes to hardware. Sometimes sponsors are involved or tournaments require them to use specific hardware, and I've said often enough that it's not a good idea to blindly copy the peripheral setups of pro players. But this time, I have to say that I totally agree with that choice. HE keyboards are just superior for gaming. So, what's so special about these? Well, this is a normal mechanical switch, and when you press it, it has this built-in dead zone essentially, until it can register a key press. Inside are these little metal contacts, and the key needs to travel all this distance until the metal parts meet and make electrical contact. Only when these parts connect, the keyboard can register an input. Of course, it takes some time for the key to travel this distance to this actuation point. How much time depends on the switch you're using and the speed of your key press. We'll have a look at some actual numbers in a second. But you can already see why this is not optimal. First up, yeah, this causes latency, as it takes time between pressing the key up until the contacts actually connect. This also makes a lot of things that require precise timing much more difficult, like think counter-strafing or using combos or building and editing in Fortnite. In contrast, this Hall effect switch doesn't have a fixed actuation point, so you can choose when a key press is detected. And if you like, this can be almost immediately, when you just barely touch the keycap. Hall effect switches just have this little magnet that goes up and down, so no electrical contact to the keyboard. And the keyboard is equipped with a sensor that can sense how far away this magnet is. So the keyboard always knows the position of your key press, no matter if you've bottomed out the switch, have pressed it, or just started pressing down. And this opens up a lot of opportunities. First up, you can configure when a key press is detected, after 1mm of travel, 2mm, or even as low as 0.1mm on most keyboards. 0.1mm is basically instantaneous. It feels like just making contact with the skin of your fingertip can trigger an input. Normally, I'm actually using 0.4 as the lowest value on my HE keyboards because 0.1 is just way too touchy. In contrast, these mechanical switches here have a fixed actuation point of 1.9mm. So compared to how I've set up my Hall of Fame keyboards, the keycap here needs to travel an additional 1.5mm until the keyboard can even register a click. And I actually took some slow-mo footage to measure the speed of my fingertip and found out that the additional 1.5mm take between 1 and 2 milliseconds of additional travel time, depending on the run-up. So obviously, Hall of Fame keyboards can have a latency advantage. Still open for debate though how much like an additional 1 or 2 milliseconds of latency will impact your gaming experience. And it's also worth noting that you can get this number down to well below 1 millisecond by using mechanical speed switches that have a much shorter actuation distance. But yeah, inherently, an HE keyboard with a super short actuation point has a small latency advantage. So how much latency are we actually talking about end to end? I mean, the switch is just one component of a keyboard, and it's totally possible that the much simpler electronics of a mechanical keyboard have less latency than Hall of Fame keyboards. So to test that, I've built a solenoid rig. So yeah, can you blame your mechanical keyboard for your slow reaction times? Well, the mechanical keyboards all ended up on the bottom of the chart, if that helps you coping. But yeah, realistically, the mechanical keyboards really aren't that far off. The slowest mechanical keyboard is not even half a millisecond slower than the slowest HE keyboard on this chart. So no, a Hall of Fame keyboard does not automatically make you faster, at least not by a lot. If you pick up the right one, you can gain a small latency advantage. However, this is really not the reason why you should be getting an HE keyboard. By far the biggest argument for HE keyboards is rapid trigger. So the ability to release and re-trigger keys virtually anywhere in the keystroke range. A mechanical keyboard just can't do that. It has fixed actuation and reset points. So here's what rapid trigger looks like on a Hall of Fame keyboard. Whenever I just lift my finger slightly, the character stops moving. I don't even have to fully let go of the key. Just a tiny upwards movement is enough.
And I can do that anywhere in the keystroke range. When I fully bottom out the switch and then let go slightly, the character stops. It's the same when I just gently press in the key or have pressed the key. It doesn't matter when I let go of the key. The character always stops immediately. And that's a pretty big deal really, because this is not only faster, but it's just super intuitive and natural. Letting go of a key always means stopping the input, no matter how pressed in a key is at the moment. Like, to my brain, this just makes so much more sense than hitting some arbitrary reset point. And when I want to re-trigger the key, it's the same principle. Pressing down anywhere in the keystroke range reactivates that key. So down always means trigger a key, up always means release that key. No need to learn and adjust to fixed actuation and reset points. Like, compare that to a mechanical keyboard. This really makes you realize how inappropriate mechanical keyboards actually are for gaming. There's all this dead space basically above the actuation point. Pressing or releasing the key here has absolutely no effect on what's happening in game. It's the same below the reset point. No matter what I do, no effect. I just keep running even though I just released the key by like a millimeter already. So I basically have to learn and get used to where this actuation and reset point are and time your movement and in-game actions accordingly.
And that's especially difficult when it comes to things like counter-strafing. Timing is super important here. Say you're moving to the right and an opponent pops up. So you gotta let go of the D key, then immediately press the A key just for a split second to counteract and stop the movement. Then let go of the A key and then shoot. To be consistent and effective, you really have to get your timing down to the millisecond. But on a mechanical keyboard, you always have to factor in the time it takes to hit the actuation and reset points. Meaning you have to start pressing or releasing a key in advance to get this timing down. And to make matters worse, how much earlier you have to start also depends on where you currently are in the keystroke range. Releasing a switch you have completely bottomed out takes more time than releasing a switch you just have barely actuated. Of course, you can get a feeling of where the actuation and reset point are, and you can still have great movement and stuff with a mechanical keyboard. There are lots of pros in every game that are still using mechanical keyboards and are totally cracked regardless. But point is, Hall of Fame keyboards just make this so much easier. On a good Hall of Fame keyboard with rapid trigger, the press and release timings are basically always constant, so no need to adjust to fixed actuation and reset points. Unfortunately though, not each and every random Hall of Fame keyboard you can find is actually good and worth picking up. Not all rapid trigger implementations work as good and flawless as I've just shown. So just because a keyboard is using Hall of Fame switches doesn't mean it will give you the improvements you're looking for. It's super important really that you can configure a Hall of Fame keyboard to your specific games and your own preferences. And not every HE keyboard offers all the important settings, and even when they do, not all of them always work as they're supposed to. I guess with all the hype surrounding Wooting's keyboards, a lot of brands just rushed to market with their products. I recently tested a bunch of HE keyboards and only Wooting and Keychron really delivered. I'll link that video on screen right now if you want to check that out. I'm definitely super excited that HE keyboards are a thing now, and I honestly don't want to go back to a mechanical keyboard, at least not for gaming anymore. Thanks for watching, bis zum nächsten Video.